All right, let's get started coding this up. I'm going to jump back to the browser and I'll make this full size and pull our dev tools down to the bottom of the page, since what we're dealing with here is more of horizontal layout. And now the first thing we want to do is set the width of the top and bottom part of the header to 960 pixels maximum. And we've done this before with our hero sections down here. Luckily, we've added those styles to a placeholder selector so we can easily extend it with other selectors. So if we inspect this, let's see where we should apply those placeholder styles. So we have a site header top and site header bottom, and both of these are going to be impacted the same way. That is, we're going to want them to extend to 960 pixels wide and then add padding to the left and right as the browser gets bigger than that. Then as the browser gets smaller, it's going to extend to the full 100% width. So it might make sense to apply these styles to the site header itself, since it contains both the top and the bottom. So let's do that. Now, since there are some moving parts to this style, I'm gonna add it in our code rather than the browser here. So I'll jump back to our code and I'll go to our site header.scss file. And now earlier, we created our placeholder style here. And so we can extend this. I'm just gonna copy the placeholder selector and I'll go back to our site header. And what I'll do is use the @extend keyword, and then I'll use our placeholder selector. Now this is what we did before, and keep in mind that you can extend any selector and it will pull in the styles from that selector. But when we use a placeholder selector, if nothing actually extends it, then the styles won't get added to the final compiled CSS. Okay, so let's save this, jump back to the browser and refresh. All right, so now everything is at 960 pixels, and if we collapse beyond a certain point, then it becomes 100% wide with some padding to either side. Now ultimately, we'll probably want to remove that padding, but we can play with this for now. Because we want our logo to hug the left and this account and search form to hug to the right, it makes sense to use floats for those. Now the logo is pretty straightforward since it's a single element, but right now if we inspect this account element, it's a sibling with the form. So we can't necessarily treat those as a unit right now. That is, when we float them to the right, we'd have to float them independently, adding styles to both of these elements. But because they're being treated as one unit, it would make sense to add a container element around them. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to our editor, into our index.html file, and here's our account link and our search form, and let's add a div around these. We'll give it the class of site header, that's the name of our component, dash, and then let's call this top right. I'll indent our account link and form and end our div, and I'll save this. And now I'll refresh in the browser with that container. Okay, so at this point we can start playing with the CSS in the browser until we get what we want.